Hello, I'd like to show you how to use my editing system. This is a website that I host. It's just an example of a site that needs to be edited, and this way the client gets to edit the site. Now, this is the home page, and let's go ahead and go to the bottom. And there's a link here called Site Editor. And I'm going to go ahead and log in. Username and password, I already know. And I'm going to click sign in. Once I've signed in, you'll notice that there's a couple things that are different. First off, there's a bar at the top, and it has some different features to it, which I won't go into. You will notice this one. I will tell you that is to hide the edit links. The edit links are what you see scattered across the page. And what edit links represent are the ability to edit a section, that section typically for that page. Sometimes the sections are true or they hold valid for every page on the site. So I call those horizontal, but won't get into the details of that. Anyway, so for example, these two sections are universal. So if I go to About Us, oh, I take that back. That's not true. At least not this one, but this one is. So I believe if I change it on the home page, it'll also change on the About Us. So that's a good example. So home, we're going to go to home. I have to hide the edit links to get that out of the way. And so this 2017-2018 season schedule is only showing on the home page, but the content here is showing everywhere. Let's edit that. And this opens up CMS Bridge. So you'll notice that as I type, the changes get updated automatically to the site. There's a button to stop that, and sometimes that's necessary when you have highly intensive JavaScripts. A good example we'll get into later is the gallery, because the gallery has slideshows. Excuse me. And so if I want to, I can check this or uncheck this, and so now changes are not updated. But if I recheck it, then it begins to listen live again. Let's go ahead and get rid of this. Now I can put an editor note on this, and so I'm going to say minor change in test, and I'm going to click update. And it's not apparently working. Let's go ahead and close this, and let's go ahead and reload this. By closing the editor, the CMS Bridge, and then by reloading the page, I know that the changes I've made have actually stuck. Let's go ahead and go back here, and let's click on the History tab. It's not showing history. I think it's because the updates are across the pages. That's the reason why. But let's go ahead and actually close this. We'll lose our changes. So this is the edit that I've made to this section. Let's go now to About Us. And sure enough, this particular block, if I move my mouse over it, it'll say main region, left content, and it's underscore common, which tells me that it's a common region. That tells me that this is actually going to be the same on all the pages. So if I go to gallery, for example, the main content is obviously different, but the left region is the same. And so let's go back and make a change. Let's get rid of this and click minor change test and click update. And it is updating, even though it's not deactivating that button, which is, I'll show you that in just a moment. but it is updating. The history is not showing, which is kind of a very poor first presentation, but sorry about that. We'll improve from here. But let's go ahead and close this. And I'm going to reload this. I just hit F5 to make sure and verify that that actually is sticking. And let's go to About Us. And so the word typing is gone, so we're good. Let's go to the gallery. And we can do the same thing here. If I click on Edit Section, this opens up the CMS Bridge. And at that point, I can do work on that section. Now, once again, if I start typing, I'm going to start right here. My name is, you can see in the background that that's being changed. Let's narrow this up a little bit. My name is Sam. If I uncheck this, then your name is John. It's not being updated. So I do this and it becomes live again. Okay, so that's one thing. The next thing is let's go ahead and say that we want that text to be, a very annoying blue. That hurts my eyes. I hope it hurts your eyes too. But that's an example of some of the features this CMS editor has. And so you can take a look at these. I'm not going to go into all of them. I'm just going to cover the key ones. This is an image, and I want to get rid of that image. I just did that by hitting delete. Now I want to add a different image, and so this button right here is called File Explorer. It's very important, and I'm going to click on that. In fact, I will be prompted for another username and password to get in here because this allows me to upload images to the images folder. And so let's take a look at, I don't know, how about this image instead. This is the one that I had before. This is the one that I want now. And I can just click OK, or I can even easier double click it. And so now I have this huge map, and it worked. Boy, did it work. It worked almost a little bit too well. Let's go ahead and go back to the editor, and let's size this. So I'm going to right click, Image Properties, and I'm going to make that be 150. And notice that the height has been entered, and it's also scaling automatically. If I remove this or unlock that, then I can distort the image. I don't typically want to do that. And so also I can have a little bit of a horizontal space border of, say, 5 pixels. 5 pixels. When I'm done, I click OK. And so now the image has updated. Let's go back to our CMS editor. So CMS can do pictures. The other thing, let's just cover a couple of the other buttons. This increases the editor portion and not the buttons in the such as the submit buttons and so forth and the editor notes. That all disappears, and I get a much larger screen to work with. I click this again. Let's go back to the smaller view. If I click on history, history is every change that I've ever made on this site. It includes a listing of the date that change was made and the language it was made in. That's a topic for another time. And the editor. In this case, it was either myself or admin. And I can actually click on this, and I can view that HTML and source code for that section as it was at that time. And if I wanted to, I could copy it, and I could revert. That's one way that I could roll back to that particular version. So there's the HTML. There's the source code. Let's go ahead and close that. Let's take a look at the very first instance of this, and so that was just something that I put in there to test it out. All right, so history shows every change that's ever been made to that section on that page, or dependent on if it's a common region, then it would show the changes that have been made commonly across that all pages for that section. But that's this button, which I've covered. File Explorer. let's cover source. If you want to use HTML, you can. You can embed objects. You can put in JavaScript. You can't put in PHP or any kind of server-side scripting, but you can do a embedded JavaScript. And so if you know HTML, this should be great for you. When you're done, simply click source again, and let's go ahead and click update. If I close, I'm going to get a warning, and I'm going to go ahead and cancel that because I do want to save these changes. So I click update, and now what I was talking about before, the update button is grayed out. Not very dramatic, but it tells me that the changes have been made. If I start changing it, if I start typing again, you can see that that actually has been activated. Let's save those changes. And so now I'm going to close. And of course everything's been saved. And yes, that doesn't look very pretty, but I like to refresh it just to make sure it has stuck, and it has. And just to recap, I click on Edit Section, I go to the bridge, or the bridge pops up, and then let's take a look at my history. So you can see that the last two changes I've made, there's my HTML and source code, and back in the day, before I added that wonderful picture, this was Texas Parks and Wildlife, that was the picture before. So I've got very good control over my site with the CMS editor. And again, if I wait too long, then this is all going to go away. So just one more time, let's simulate that. And so this is what the site looks like. And of course, this is my local, so it says Winged Republic-local. So these changes are not being seen by the world. But if I go to Gallery, there's my changes. To log in, once again, I go down to Site Editor, click Site Editor, and then I have to know the username and password, click Sign In, and then I've got my Edit Section capability. So that's that.